Hey, well, tonight I'm angry about the First Amendment, and amusingly enough, our story tonight involves a guy called Michael Friend who actually was doing something friendly to his neighbors and it got him into trouble. So let's review the situation. I take you back to April of 2018, and a guy called Michael Friend is watching city employees issue tickets to motorists. These are tickets being issued to people for driving in their car while on their cell phone. And what Michael Friend hates is that he sees that there's a policeman hiding behind a sign who's radioing ahead to other policemen to notify them that drivers are on their cell phones. These are obviously generating fines for the city, and he thought that they were doing it in a very underhand manner. So Michael Friend writes a sign that says, "Police ahead," and stands about 2 blocks away and holds the sign saying "Police ahead." And the police are infuriated and they approach him in the person of Detective Richard Gasparino, and they tell him that he cannot stand there and he cannot hold this sign because he is interfering with their operation, which is either A, to stop motorists from driving with cell phones, and B, to collect fines from motorists that are driving with cell phones. And if you look into the background, you can see that this took place in Stamford, Connecticut, and that town got about $50,000 from the feds to run this operation. So anyway, Michael Friend has his sign taken from him after this interaction with Detective Gasparino, and Mr. Friend goes down the road to a convenience store and makes another sign, gets a piece of paper, writes "Police ahead" on it, comes out and holds the sign. The convenience store is actually sympathetic to him, and someone in the convenience store provides Mr. Friend with a bigger sign, which he then subsequently uses, and he continues his effort to warn motorists of the police trap ahead. So Detective Gasparino returns even more upset this time. He confiscates the sign. He also takes Mr. Friend's telephone, and he takes another telephone that Mr. Friend has with him, and he arrests him. He puts him in the back of a police car, and he is taken to the police station by Officer Deems. And this is what Mr. Friend claims that Officer Deems tells him while they are transporting him to jail. Officer Deems tells him that the reason the police were upset is because Mr. Friend was interfering with their livelihood. He explained to Mr. Friend that the cell phone sting was being operated as an overtime assignment, and that there was a federal grant that would only pay the city if they issued a certain number of tickets. And Mr. Deems was upset because he claimed that Mr. Friend was reducing the number of tickets that the city of Stamford could issue, and therefore decreasing their chances of earning any overtime. This is policing for profit. I mean, we hear about civil asset forfeiture, which is a subject for several shows. It's outrageous how police entities around the country are actually literally stealing money from citizens. As a matter of fact, stealing more money than the actual thieves succeed in stealing, which is quite an accomplishment. But let's not talk about that today. We're only talking about really this First Amendment issue. So Mr. Friend was being punished for warning motorists about this ticket writing operation, and he was taken to jail. While being booked, Detective Gasparino, it turns out, was the entity that decided what bail should be set for him, and without any investigation of Mr. Friend, who had no criminal background at all apparently, Detective Gasparino demanded a bail of $25,000, which caused Mr. Friend to spend the night in jail. Thankfully, there is a system in Stamford where if a defendant is unable to make bail, there is a bail commissioner that reviews the case. And at 2 a.m., Mr. Friend's case was reviewed and bail was reduced to 0 and he was released. He sued the police department, claiming that they had, number one, violated his First Amendment rights, and second, his Fourth Amendment rights by taking his phone, arresting him, etc. And just recently, the judge issued a ruling, and this is the issue that we have. The judge issued a ruling saying that everything was fine, that as long as Mr. Friend wasn't expressing an opinion on matters of public import, his free speech was irrelevant. It wasn't protected in that case. Mr. Friend was not only arrested and had his belongings stolen or confiscated, he subsequently had to buy another phone because his phone had been confiscated. But the judge has now ruled that there was no First Amendment issue in this case, even though when it came time for the city to press charges, the city prosecutor, made this statement: that they were not going to prosecute him, and the prosecution explained to the court that Mr. Friend's signs actually helped the police do a better job than they anticipated, because when drivers saw the signs, they got off their cell phones. Well, whether the police were earning overtime or not, the fact is that they were collecting fines from people on their phones. And Mr. Friend holding his sign was accomplishing exactly the same objective that the police claim that they were trying to accomplish, which is to get people off their phones. Mr. Friend has suffered on behalf of all of us as a representative of fighting for the First Amendment. The ACLU represented him in this case. They've lost the first round. Are they going to spend the money to take it to district court? I hope so. The assault on our First Amendment rights continues, and we need every battle to be fought, because otherwise we're going to lose the war. Please, let's wake up.